Hey everybody, I'm Scott from ActiveShock. Hey, today I want to bring you to our undisclosed location here, introduce you to our 1995 Chevrolet Camaro. This particular car was the very first installation for the Berserker ASM system by Viking Performance. Great thing about this car is we used it for most of our testing and development work, so it has about 20,000 miles on the system already. And I'd like to show you guys a little behind the scenes on how we put the system in this car, maybe give you some tips on how to install your system and things to watch for when you install it in your vehicle. Alright, so why don't we get started? Let's get the car up on the lift, take a couple of wheels off, take a look at the shock installation, take a look at how the wheel position sensors are installed, and then we can go around the vehicle and show you how the other components were installed in this car.
Here's the installation of our Berserker shock in the rear of our Camaro. We've converted it to a coilover using the supplied Viking coilover kit. We created a small bracket to suspend the position sensor and then attached the linkage to the control arm with another small bracket we fabricated. The travel of the sensor was carefully measured according to the instructions that are provided with the kit. Let's move around to the front of the Camaro. We've removed the inner fender well here so you can better see the components that we've installed. The shock was a direct replacement for the OEM shock that was fitted to the vehicle. We mounted the position sensor flat against the inner fender well and then ran the linkage down to the lower control arm where we fastened it to the control arm with a threaded tapped hole. We ran the hoses along the sway bar and towards the front of the car fabricated a bracket to hold the manifold assembly, which included the valve and the charge canister. The wiring from the valve was easily connected to the ECU since the ECU was mounted above on the frame rail. The wiring was then run back along the fender well and secured with P-clips along the way to keep it securely fastened. The wiring was then fed through a grommeted hole into the passenger compartment where it will be connected to the master controller.
Now that you've had an opportunity to see how we installed the shocks and the wheel position sensors, let's go under the hood and take a look at the steering sensor. Steering sensor is a second component in our sensor suite that tells the ECUs whether you're turning the wheel in the right or the left direction, and also at the rate at which you're dialing in steering angle. Those are important pieces of data that help the ECUs make a decision on the proper damping commands for the vehicle. With the engine compartment open, let's take a look down next to the steering column and show you how we installed our steering sensor.
The steering sensor and bracket are fitted to the fixed end of the column. The toothed wheel is attached to the steering shaft, which rotates when you turn the steering wheel.
There are 4 ECUs included in your kit. Each one's associated with a corner on the vehicle. Let me show you how we installed our ECUs on this 95 Camaro. For us, we found a convenient location on the frame rail just behind the headlights to install our ECU. We chose this location because it allowed us to keep the ECU flat and have it firmly attached to the sprung mass of the vehicle.
As we move around the driver's side front of the car, let's take a look behind the headlights and see how we installed our ECU. You can see that it's flat against the frame rail, and there are 2 sets of wires running out of the ECU. One attaches to the position sensor, and the other runs forward to the cabin of the vehicle, where we'll connect it to the master at a later time. In the rear, we found a convenient mounting location on the body just above the wheel well that allowed us to connect the wires from the ECU to the position sensor in the wheel well and also run them up front to connect to the master controller.
With the ECUs installed in the vehicle and the wires run into the passenger compartment, we next had to provide power to the system. So let's give you a look under the hood and how we accomplished that.
The engine compartment fuse panel provided a convenient location to grab switched power. We sent a wire across the radiator support to the other side of the vehicle where the battery positive terminal was located on the fender. We added in the fuse and the relay and ran a wire into our passenger compartment to connect to our master controller.
Now that we had all our external components installed and wires in the passenger compartment, we could move inside to connect up the last parts of the system, the switch, the status LED, and the master controller.
We wanted to choose a spot in our vehicle where it's convenient for the driver to operate the switch and view the LED while driving. We chose a spot in the center console and mounted our components in an off-the-shelf electronic box. We added the Viking sticker for a little extra bling. Since hiding the master controller wasn't a major concern of ours in this installation, we chose to mount it on the side of the console where we could attach the USB cable simply and run it to the passenger seat to allow us to connect to our computer when we wanted to log data or check system status. Here are some tips to remember when you're installing your system. By all means, be safe, take your time, do a clean installation, and you'll be rewarded with excellent performance and excellent reliability.